What's up, everybody? I'm Outlaw Morgan. Welcome to the channel OM Fishing. Today we are going to do a DIY project where I take a cooler and turn it into a live bait tank. I'm gonna show you step by step how I do it, so stick around. For the record, I'm not an expert at anything. As a matter of fact, you could say I'm a newbie. And those that actually know me, you know that I'm 99.99% artificial bait. I've started on artificial bait, been throwing artificial bait the entire time, and for some reason, I'm a glutton for punishment. There's nothing I enjoy more than hitting the lake and struggling to get a bite and switching up all these baits and trying to figure out the pattern. It's a challenge, and for some reason, it's a love-hate relationship. But anyway, occasionally I get invited onto a charter boat where they throw live bait down here in South Florida. We get peacock, we get clown knives. They're a lot of fun. I invited my daughter fishing for the first time. She said yes. I thought, well, maybe I should get live bait. And then I thought, I'll pump chest, I'll cast a net, I'll catch my own bait like a real man, and I'll put it in a 5-gallon bucket with a bubbler. Rip to the shad. Some of them. Some of them made it, some of them didn't. Either way, I started to do the research. I realized how it works now. You have to have a lot of water per dozen. It's 10 gallons per dozen. You have to have some circulation, filtration. It's a process. But I was prepared to dive in. I'm going to do this build. I go to Walmart. I'm looking at coolers, and my phone rings. So I answer the phone. My buddy's like, "What are you doing?" I tell him I'm standing in Walmart looking at coolers. "What do you need a cooler for?" I explained to him that I'm taking on a project and I'm building my own live bait tank. "Don't you have a live well on the boat?" Then I had to get into all the science behind shad and explain to him how fragile they are, and you got to have X amount of gallon per X amount of fish. Anyway, he says, "Well, I got a cooler at the house you can have." I was like, "Well, what kind of cooler is it?" "I don't know, it's the biggest one that Walmart sells. It's white." That's what I was looking at in Walmart. "So, what's wrong with it?" "Well, nothing's wrong with it except for the clips are gone that hold it closed, and there's a crack on the outside somewhere, but the inside's perfect." "Okay, well, if that's the case, I don't need pristine and pretty. I just need something that works. And I'm gonna drill holes into it and whatnot." So if he has something I could actually use, he just saved me 80 bucks on this build. Here we go. We got the cooler here. This is a big boy. This is definitely 120 quart. Take it to the house, clean it up, and get it prepped for surgery. Okay guys, now that we have this cooler all cleaned up, I removed the drain plug. You see the hole here in the bottom where you let the water drain out. And what I'm holding in my hand here is a Tsunami 500 GPH, which stands for gallons per hour. And we are going to install this aerator pump right here. And it's a perfect fit. I don't have to cut, I don't have to drill, I don't have to expand. But before we do that, I noticed inside the cooler, there is actually a crack in here. And that's allowing water to kind of leak into the foam that's between the plastic and the cooler here. So we have to patch that before we do anything. What I'm using here is a little bit of marine sealant. There's not going to be a lot of pressure in this cooler. So if there was, I would use epoxy, but I don't feel like mixing up epoxy. So what we're going to do is just kind of use this and push it down in there. And we're going to give it another coat. This stuff actually dries hard as nails, so it's the next best thing to epoxy, that's for sure. Yeah. So we're just going to put a nice little coat on there, let that dry up, and that problem should be solved for now. Now I'm going to use the same sealant I used to fix the crack, and I just want to get enough on my finger here. This is marine sealant. This is 5300. You can see right there what I'm using. You can find this at any marine store, West Marine, or online, wherever you find your supplies at. What I'm going to do is I'm basically going to create a gasket here on the outside. Okay, So we're taking this, we're just spreading it. We're going to make us a little gasket all the way around so that when I pull that nut on the inside, this will create the sealant on the outside. So we're just going to dab that around a little more. You don't want it too thick, but you don't want it too thin either. So, you know, this is the whole purpose, is to seal out the water. That will do. So now what we want to do is just kind of place this in here like so. Then we're going to the inside. We're going to repeat that same process and just get us a nice thin coat all the way around this nut. And then we're going to tighten that Tsunami 500 into place. And this will create a barrier, just like a gasket basically. You're creating a gasket so that the water doesn't leak out. But we want a little bit more, not much more, just a little more. Remember, this isn't pressure. This is just streaming water, no pressure. Okay, so now what we want to do, we have the Tsunami in place here. We just want to hold that in place about there. And we want to take this nut. We want to start tightening this nut down, working our way all the way back to the edge of this cooler on the wall here. So I'm going to tighten that down, and then we will move on to the next phase. Now that we have the aerator pump installed, we're going to allow it some time to dry so the adhesive can cure and set up properly. What we're going to do now is we're going to drill a hole with a hole saw. And we're going to pop a hole back here. I think right here is a good place. And we're going to install this 90-degree aerator spray head. This is going to connect with a hose, and it's going to shoot the water and create a current, which will help keep the shad healthy and alive. As you guys can see, X marks the spot. This is where we are going to put our aerator spray head. So now we have to use a hole saw to drill through there. One thing I never see anybody do, and I think it's just for precaution, good measure, use some painter's tape and try to create a spot where it won't split the inside of the cooler. That's basically the idea there. We want to try to make sure we don't split or crack it. Just a little extra protection there. We're going to go nice and slow. Just pull this foam out here and dig out the hole a little bit. Alright, going back in. Slow and steady, boys, slow and steady. So we have our hole is drilled out now. That's a problem. That is a problem. That's a problem. It doesn't fit properly, boys. Gotta go MacGyver now. I'm not gonna spend any more money on this build. This is a low budget build. I'm keeping it low budget. I think what I'm going to do is take some of this tubing here. It won't be pretty, but who cares? And I'm just going to take the tubing and push it through. It's a perfect fit. Then I'm going to use the adhesive, seal around here. Then I'm going to take this 90 and I'm just going to aim it inside the tank like so. Now we just got to get a clamp on this thing here. So we'll pull this back out. We'll grab one of our clamps. These are stainless steel, by the way. I wouldn't use anything but stainless steel because you're dealing with moisture, you're dealing with water. So you don't want anything to rust or become a problem. All right. Once I get this on here, tight so that won't pop off when it comes on. Now what we want to do is use this adhesive again. This is a lifesaver. We're going to seal around here to try to create a barrier to stop any water from going outside of the cooler. That might not be the prettiest job, but it'll work. And that's all that matters. Sometimes you have to become a real life MacGyver. You have to adapt and overcome. You have to think things out and figure out a winning solution. So let's see how many other winning solutions we come up with. One question is where to put the electrical. Some people might just run it straight off of a wire. Some people might want switches. Some people might even install lights and have switches for the lights. So I bought this junction box. This is a 4x4x2 junction box. As you can see, it's got a gasket, so it's waterproof. It's about 10 bucks. So I'm just looking now where to line this thing up so that we can get this on here. Again, I only use stainless steel screws because I know that it's going to rust if I don't use stainless steel. The screws that I have aren't long enough to go through all the way, just deep enough to hold the box in place. And that's all we need. And once I actually get these holes here, I will fill the holes with the same adhesive silicone, the marine silicone, so that basically those holes are protected as well. Just trying to get everything to line up here. And then basically what I want to do is just create pilot holes. I can get everything to line up. The plastic is so slick, it's hard to hold in place. Alright, so let's see here. Let's do this. We'll just get this side going first. Careful. Alright. Careful. And that will help me keep everything together for the next set of pilot holes here. Okay, good. Okay, let me see. Sorry if there's shadows and whatnot. I can't help that. The sun is the sun. Okay. Good enough. All right, take this back off. So now I have an idea of where my holes should be. Doesn't take a lot. You don't need to put a lot of pressure on it. It goes right through. I thought I was recording. Turns out I wasn't recording. But you can see I drilled the pilot holes. Then I took the screws, which are actually bigger than the drill bit that I used. Gooped those with the adhesive. And then put them into the cooler. So you want to let that dry thoroughly because the adhesive is also going to help hold those in place. And then we're going to drill some holes in here in just a minute and run our electrical. We're going to put a LED strip in here, and that way they have light whenever I have the lid closed. I don't know if I need 2 LED strips, but I have them if I want them. So let's get those installed. One thing to note about LED strips is they have a self-adhesive pullback piece. I don't know if these have gotten any better, but they used to be garbage, so I bought some double-edged tape. And what I normally do is I cut the double-edged tape to match this, put the tape down first, and then put this on top of the tape. And it usually holds pretty good on anything I've used. So just keep that in mind. You probably want to add double-edged tape to this to make it a little stronger. Yeah, we're going to drill a hole to allow the wiring to come in for this. So let's do that. We're going to drill that hole right here. Right? Or should we go a little higher? Maybe go a little higher. Right there. Just want to come through real slow. Real slow. Alright, let's see if those wires will go through there. So, this is the wire off the try me button. Put those wires together. Make sure everything's ready to go through there. Let's see if this will fit. Perfect. That works. Now we have the wires coming through the back right here. So we can go right into our box from there. All right, we can even just pull this all the way out. Just have just enough like that. Which means that we can go through our box here. Or actually, you know what? In case it rains or whatever, let's go through the bottom. let's come up through the bottom with all the wiring, so that way hardly any water can get in this box. So we're just going to drill a hole here. Not worried about placement or it being perfect. We just want to get that in there. Alright. There we go. Boom. So we have this wire in here. Now, our tsunami wires can get zip tied to our tubing. They can come through the bottom as well. Perfect. So we're going to need a bigger hole for that though. So let's switch out the drill bit. That should be plenty. So our junction box is loaded. All right, and we have a couple of these, but do we want to use, I honestly think one's going to put off plenty of light. I don't think we're going to actually need both. So then basically we just take this, and yeah, that can come out, because we're not going to, I don't think we're going to use the other one. I don't think we're going to need it. I'll keep it as a backup in case something happens to this one. But like I said, one of the things to keep in mind too is that the adhesive on this thing really isn't the greatest. So we're going to clean this surface. I'm going to grab this double-edged tape here, and then we're going to put some double-edged tape right here just to make sure that we get the maximum protection. Just get any dust, dirt, debris off of there. And then what we want to do is we just want to get an idea of length here. I think that's good enough. Good enough for government work, right guys? All right. Then what we want to do is we're just going to put that in place. Like that. I want to make sure that we have that sticking really well. Alright, so now it's a little more tape than I needed. It was a little overkill, but we'll take the tape off of here. Oh my God, you gotta go college for this stuff. OMG, OMG, OMG. Alright, here we go, got it. Alright. So now, we're just going to take our LED, and we are just going to mash it into the tape that we just installed. Alright, good enough for government work. So now our light's in place, right? I mean, I don't think we're moving this thing. Are we moving it? Can I move it? Okay, all right, yeah, let's move it. Let's move it where it's not bending that cord so much. Okay. I'm not worried about placement or perfection. I mean, dude, this ain't like I'm gonna turn around and sell it for $700, which is what you would pay for a really nice live well bait tank, or live bait whale, you know what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying. You know what I'm getting at. You know what I'm getting at. Oh, perfect, there we go. So much of this build is recycled. I used to have a battery tender for my motorcycle, which has a quick connect here. So I'm going to use that to go to my battery out of the junction box. Now, I think this has a 7.5 amp fuse in it, but I bought some 3 amp fuses because this pump recommends 3 amp fuse. So if you guys are going with Tsunami or any other brand, make sure you know what it is that they call for. Use 3 amp fuse right here. So I have 3 amp fuses. What we're going to do, I don't believe I'll be using the gator clips, so we are going to grab these and we are going to cut the gator clip side off, and this will be where the power comes into the junction box on this side. So these wires will come in here supplying the power, and these will go to a battery that will sit by the cooler and provide the power. I'm gonna put the 3 amp fuse right here. For those that were confused by me cutting that off, there's one right here. So I just drilled this hole in the junction box. I know people are picky. They might want to see the entire thing, but I forgot to turn the camera on. And obviously, oh, no, I don't have to expand the hole. Here we go. And what I'm going to do when this is all said and done is I'm going to use some silicone and plug these holes here so that it's actually 100% moisture and waterproof. So all my wires are in now. The wire to the battery, wire to the light, wire to the pump. Everything's going to be on switches. So what I've done here is I went ahead and stripped all my wires. I didn't want to bore you with all that, but what I'm going to do is take all of the negative wires, tie all the negative wires together so that all of our negatives are connected. No issues there. All right. Then what we have to do is we run our positive to the switch, which I'm going to put, what are they called, Stay-Cons? I'm going to put a Stay-Con on there, and then I'm going to run another, you want to run to the switch so that you can break the circuit. Now this is to our pump. Good enough for government work. This is our positive coming off the battery here. We want to trim a little bit of that excess off as well. Okay. Now, what we want to do is we want to, I don't have any red wire, but you know, again, this is a budget build, and so this is going to be positive wire coming off of the battery positive. So we're going to run this to one side of the switch, and then we're going to connect to the other Stay-Con. Boom, you break the circuit, you open or close the circuit. Same thing here, we're going to run a piece of wire here too. Open, close the circuit, everything should work. Again, like I said, we're going to use this wire nut and bring all the positives together. Now, the two positives, which are black, they should be red, but these are going out to the switches to, you know, break the circuit and the switch to turn them off, turn them on, whatever the case is. I don't claim to do the prettiest work. I just say that it will work, and that's all we need to know, gang. I know right now some electricians out there just like, oh my God. It's okay, buddy. This is just a cooler. This ain't somebody's house. Calm down. So now we're ready to go positive to our pump with a switch, and then go out to the positive with a switch to our light, which basically just opens and closes the circuit from positive to positive. All the negatives are already tied together, so we're good to go there. One thing I wasn't really happy with was the way these wires are exposed. So I cut the Stay-Con off, and what we're gonna do is use some heat shrink tubing. And we're just gonna feed this stuff through this tubing to give it a little extra protection. Plus it'll look a little cleaner than just having two wires dangle, which I don't want. So all the negatives have been reunited. I just feel like that looks a lot cleaner than having two wires just dangle there, you know, two random separated wires. That looks a lot cleaner. All right, okay, here's the positive for the pump. We're gonna have to get this guy on here. Okay, we got a little too much on there. Let's kill some of this excess. Okay. Now the wiring's almost done. Just have to get the switches in place. So I'm not sure how to cut these holes. I don't do this every day, but what I did was I kind of marked where I should cut. So I'm just gonna do like I would normally do with any other situation. Just drill a hole here. And drill a hole here. And just mark the corners and then figure it out from there. And then here. Put me somewhere in here. way my corners are marked. Now we'll just have to figure it out from there. I don't have a little blade. This plastic is fairly thick. Maybe a Dremel tool? That took way too long, but I got it done. So let's go put this on. I got everything wired up, pretty much ready to close this up. And as you guys can see, this is pretty much what it's going to look like. Pump on, pump off, lights on, lights off. But I'm not sure if I got this wired right, so I'm going to take this over to the boat and test it. Up is on for the pump. Up is on for the light. Down is off, just as it should be. We're ready to button that thing up. It's getting dark on us, but there's no stopping. There's no stopping it. Whoop. Now, if you're wondering what I'm doing right now, I'm making a filter housing to filter the water. And I'll show you how this all works here in just a second. We're just going to drill holes all through this thing. Except for one side, we're going to use a unibit. Some people call it a step bit. Some people call it a unibit. And we're going to make a hole for the PVC pipe to come through. Next step to the filter housing, just make a hole back here in the back. Switch over to the unibit, or like I said, some people call it a step bit. Shake all that plastic out. We're definitely going to need a bigger hole than that. I have to do some whittling, and then we will get this pipe in here. Yeah, that's done now. So the PVC pipe will actually go in here, and it fits nice and snug. What I'm going to do is use this threaded adapter here. It's like a threaded coupling, and we are going to put the threaded end on the input of our aerator. Should we hold this all steady here? I'm not worried about gluing anything or anything like that because it's all input, no pressure really. That's probably good enough. So then what we need to do is we need to get an idea. Say that was set there. So it doesn't have to be much pipe, maybe something to this effect here, because we're going to have a fitting on it. Yeah, so we'll just cut. If I cut it wrong, we can cut another piece. But dang, that was rough. Alright, so we're just going to take this piece of pipe, this short piece of pipe right here. I got some sandpaper here, just make sure that we get that beveled edge off of there. Alright, so what we are going to do now, we're going to pop this one side through here. And then we are going to put our pipe into the fitting, just like so. This is a strainer kit from Home Depot, and it was $3.96. So I was like, you know what? We're going to make a hillbilly engineering mesh end on this thing, because like I said, we're doing this as low budget as possible. Low to no budget. Something like this size here might be good. Kind of open her up, or wait, or will that one work better? That might be too small. That's too small. Alright, so I think this one might be the winner. We're just going to push that mesh out. right. Let's see if this hillbilly engineering trick works. If not, oh well, it was only $3, $4. Let's see if we can get this mesh, this ring to bend. There we go. We're on some real hillbilly shit here. But you know what? If it works, right? Okay. So then what we do is we take this piece. If there's a way to, I'm just going to bend it all the way and then open it up where I need it to open. Here we go. Here we go. Oh, that'll work. Tighten the edges like that. Yeah, good enough. If not, I got this big boy here, but that's a little too big. Anyway, next step, we're going to cut us some filter. Now, this is just some washable media I got from Home Depot. The main thing is we just want to catch the scales and the poop and all that stuff. No rhyme or reason, just start cutting, boys. Don't have to be perfect. I'm gonna have this in layers anyway. I was gonna use socks, but let's see here. Yeah, I know what you guys are thinking. This is pretty hillbilly. Yeah, you would be correct. Okay, so then what we'll do is we'll put a piece of it down here. All right. Then we'll put a piece towards the front there. Whatever. If it works, it works. If we keep the fish alive, we did our job. And of course you want to use like non-iodized salt and stress coat and ammonia lock, but that's for another video. That's for another video. Get some. Get some. Right on the toe. Dude, I think that's probably good enough. Alright. Then we take our top, which came down here. We're going to pop our top on. There we go. We are ready to fill this joker up. Give her a test run. Now I know what you guys are thinking. Well, how are you going to drain it? Well, I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a nut right here. We loosen this, pop this off. I have another tube here. Aim that tube off the side of the boat, and we're draining. Now, what I'm going to end up doing is probably put a T or a Y coming off here. Maybe even put in a valve, and then put in a valve over here, and have it where I can just switch them. And that way I don't have to get into, you know, unscrewing it. But for now, that will do. Let's fill it up. No need to prime it. It's right to work. Putting out the bubbles, moving the water, filling the current, and we can even give them a little mood lighting to go with it. All in all, I think I've spent maybe $130 on this build. That would normally cost probably $700 to $800 for a 30-gallon tank, which this is 30 gallons. So I hope you guys like the video. I have no idea how it turned out. And be sure to sub the channel. Keep casting. Alright guys, if you have made it to this point in the video, you were committed, so bravo and thank you. Be sure to hit the subscribe button, click the bell, select all for notifications. I know this video was extremely long, but I was trying to make it as thorough as possible and I wanted you to feel like you were there with a hands-on approach. So hopefully that was accomplished, and maybe you guys learned something. I hope the video was of a value, and I don't think this build's 100% done. Like I said towards the end, I need a drainage system on this, so probably a Y with a couple of valves on each line, and then be able to open one, close one, and allow this thing to drain out, because it's about 130 pounds of water in this big old tank. Now, do I need a tank this big? I'll tell you the reason I wanted to do this. I don't really ever go live bait fishing, ever. And I have done it recently, like I said in the beginning of the video. What that taught me was that shad are very fragile, and you need a lot of water, a good current. You need salt, and we'll get into all that another time as far as how to prep the water, condition the water for shad. But I don't like being out on the water and not being able to have a rod in my hand. I'm weird like that. So when I was live baiting with my daughter, I would have to cast net a bit, put them in the bucket, go fishing, cast net again. What I wanted to do was eliminate that whole process. I just want to be able to cast net multiple times in one sitting, dump about I probably get about 4 dozen shad in this tank. And that should be enough for me and my buddy, or me and my daughter, or me and another person to go fishing for most of the day. And that's how I want to do it. I want to cast net, fill it up, go. You know, and I want to be able to fish for hours. For those that know me, I can fish from sun up to sundown. It's not a problem. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.